really only want this angle so I can just have the lava lamp in it. I haven't done a talking video because I never know what to talk about. Even though, ironically, it has been the last year has been one of the most eventful in the world. I should figure out something to talk about, and I couldn't, evidently. Also, like, when I started the talking videos, I didn't really have people to talk to, and then I kind of like started talking to friends again, and kind of, you know, just didn't really occur to me to make a talking video anymore. Or YouTube videos, except for the reaction videos and the video about books and all the music I like and all that stuff at the beginning of the pandemic, because I just felt that that would be fun to do at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I ran out, well, I did make a video that I was gonna change and ended up not changing it and didn't post it. I posted it for like a day, and then I was like, I'm gonna get rid of this and redo it, and then I never redid it. So I mean, I should just post it the way it is, honestly. Like, I was gonna change like one thing in it, but I'm not gonna do that, probably. I wanted to do this in horrible lighting because, well, I mostly just want my lava lamp. This is just a lava lamp video, okay? Like, the star is the lava lamp. It's not me. It's not what I'm talking about. It's the lava lamp, okay? The lava lamp is just so amazing, and if you don't have a lava lamp, what are you even doing? Obviously, since my last talking video, I'm not in the same room, and I'm not in the same room as my previous videos either. Why am I talking about myself? See, this is why I didn't want to make a talking video, because I don't want to talk about myself, but what I was thinking of talking about in general was YouTube. Explaining why my YouTube is so random, inconsistent, and pointless, because I'm not a YouTuber, and I never was one. But however, I am someone who's interested in documenting life, documenting real life. I mean, mainly my art is that I'm a writer, and so I'm always documenting my life, I mean, in my writing, but also, you know, just life in general, what life is like in the modern sense. And these videos are also that, I suppose, which is why they're kind of, every time I do a talking video, the whole idea is that if I just feel like doing a talking video, like, do it. Doesn't matter what I'm wearing, doesn't matter if makeup's done, doesn't matter if my hair is washed or what it looks like or whatever, like, that, like, just do it if you feel like doing one, is kind of my philosophy for them, I suppose. I do like making YouTube videos because, first of all, I love editing video. That's the main thing. I mean, whoa, it's all 19s, sorry. It's July 19th today, and I have like 24-hour clock on my computer, and it's 1919. So there's 3 19s right there. That's very weird. Anyway, but, so, I mean, it's not my favorite thing ever to edit a video of myself. I mean, it's kind of weird, and that's also like another reason why I stopped doing them, because I just kind of like felt weird like looking at myself and all that stuff. Like, sometimes I just like don't want to do that. I don't know, like, I don't know if other YouTubers or streamers or anyone, because I've also streamed before, have ever talked about just how weird it is to look at yourself and to like know what you look like to know what you look like at certain angles, because you've seen so much video of yourself, to know what you sound like, and then you just kind of become really like fixated on it, and it's kind of like uncomfortable, because I don't want to like know my persona that well. Like, it's very weird, and it's very weird to just be so familiar with it, and it's also very weird to like sit there and watch it, like to sit there and like watch back yourself talking or doing something, like if you just set up a camera, or you set up your camera and you're like walking around or like getting something or whatever, and like you see like exactly what your body looks like and stuff, because like mirrors aren't, you know, perfect, and neither is a camera, of course. Like you never really know what you look like through other people's eyes, but it is sort of interesting because like it is very different than a mirror, and I think it's more accurate to what you might really look like looking at camera footage of yourself. But it can get very like psychological, like it's just, things start getting really fucked up, I don't know, and it's just bizarre. Like people who do this as for a living, like people who stream all the time or are like big YouTubers and stuff like that, like I can't imagine. I guess like a lot of the bigger people don't edit their own videos anymore, so maybe they like barely even look at it, maybe they don't even watch them, so maybe it's different, but like I watch them, and I like watch them over and over just because like sometimes I forget what I said and stuff, so I'm like, oh god, this is like public, like so what did I say in this video again? Like, oh my god, like I don't know if anybody watching this notices that I take down my videos sometimes and I put them back, because sometimes I'm just like, oh god, like I don't want my stupid face on the internet right now, and then I just put it back because I'm like, it doesn't matter. And like the whole idea is to have just like a normal person on YouTube, because I think a lot of people on YouTube want money. First of all, they're doing this because they want to build a following, they want money, they want this to be like their job. I don't want this to be my job. I don't know what I want my job to be, but I'll just, you know, I'll just like take jobs that I like and probably change jobs all the time and be poor forever. That's pretty normal, I think. But no, actually, I don't know. I don't think I would want this as my job. I wouldn't want writing as my job either, so I just like to keep them as hobbies. But I think it's important to have a normal person on YouTube. Normal person. Whatever that means, right? Whatever. But you know what I mean. Like, just an average, everyday human being who's not trying to be a YouTuber, trying to, like, be a big streamer, like, trying to get a following and get money and all these things. Like, no. And I don't know, and kind of like putting on a show too. Like I think probably a lot of people, you know, put on a persona. I am really this stammery and awkward and talk like, I don't know, in real life, right? I just make these dumbass videos. Just, I don't know, it's just fun. Like I really have no explanation as to why I find it fun, I just do. But anyway, it is important, I think, to have an average person who isn't a real YouTuber putting videos on this website. And I've found some like fucking regular ass people who like talk like this, like make a vlog or whatever, who it's not like their job or anything, but they've like done a few little things, and like I love finding those are my favorite, because as much as I love like the big YouTubers that I like to watch, I really enjoy just like seeing everyday people, and I'm sure there's other people who enjoy that too. So, you know, like this kind of content I think is needed, and maybe like a bit refreshing. I know like it's kind of like exhausting to constantly be like told to subscribe and join my Patreon and like all these kinds of things, like good for them if they want that, but yeah, I thought about something else. I went off on that one, but the lab really. But yeah, so 2020 and now halfway through 2021 have been interesting, to say the least. To say the absolute least, with like the worst adjective I could possibly use, the most boring adjective I could use, but essentially, yes, interesting, because a pandemic started. Actually, what's funny is I do have a talking video from January, I think 2020, when there's like news coming out that there might be like World War III and there's all this stuff, and I was like, wow, what if there was, like, and like things just like all changed and our lives just totally changed and stuff like that. And that kind of happened, except that it was a pandemic instead of World War III. But I mean, it kind of started somewhat of a civil war in a way, because a lot of people are fighting, and there's like the anti-mask and anti-vax, and then there's the pro-mask, pro-vax, like literally pro, like not just, oh, I got the vaccine or I wear a mask and like that, I just feel comfortable that way. That's like pro, like people who are like stoked on it, which is like a whole other breed, you know? They're just like fucking excited, and they're like, oh my god, I got the vaccine, and they like take a selfie, or they're like I love my mask, or like they get like a really cute fancy mask. Like some people get like people were like making handmade masks, you know, to like make money, which like good for them, not like hating or anything like that. But I would feel it's like pro mask, like people who are just like super into it, like all like super into it, you know what I mean? And yeah, and then like, I don't know, there's like middle ground people, you know, nowadays you kind of forget that there's middle ground people, but there really are. They're just quiet. I can say they, but I should say we, because I'm a middle ground person. And we get hated on a lot, I think, because they're like, pick a side or something, you know? You can't just like be in between things all the time. And I'm like, I am though. Like, it's not always black and white. And I really always see arguments that make sense from all different perspectives. So I don't know, it's really hard for me to be on a side. I don't know, and I'm like just not that intense of a person when it comes to opinions, I guess. I don't know, sometimes I can be. The world is full of strong opinions right now. I go on Twitter, that's like really the only social media that I use. Twitter gets the most hate. It's always like, oh, everyone hates Twitter and likes Instagram, which is like the most fucking shallow. Here's my strong opinion. That is a shallow way to live, because Instagram is just pictures, and not only that, but they're heavily edited pictures, right? They're like, you're not looking at real people, because like these people, they use Facetune and Photoshop and like all this kind of shit. Like even in videos they can do this. So like, and filters and everything, like everyone's skin looks so fucking perfect. Like I grew up, in my makeup video, I say this, I don't wear foundation, right? And I didn't wear foundation my whole life because I just always felt like my skin is fine. Like, I didn't really think about it that much. Like, I just like eye makeup for the most part, and like lip gloss, right? I never really was like, oh, I need to cover up stuff. Like, I don't know, I wasn't that bad, I guess. So I thought maybe I was lucky. But let me tell you, in like the past couple years, have I fucking started thinking my skin looks bad, because I'm like, oh my god, it has red splotches, I have like these dots everywhere, which I guess are like maybe blackheads, or like I have a breakout right now, like I'm filming in the dark for a reason. But like seriously, and I'm like, why isn't my skin like this, like completely like flawless porcelain doll fucking thing? Like, because that doesn't exist. So I did get foundation, and I started using it, and I'm like, oh, like I did like that it kind of evened out when I had red splotches. It kind of like evened it out, so there wasn't red splotches, it was all kind of one tone. That's like the one thing that I found that it was good for. But like, first of all, it's expensive like to buy that stuff all the time. Second of all, like it's so annoying. Like, I already hate having to wash my eye makeup off at the end of the day, and then I have to like also wash my entire face, and it's just a lot of work. And yeah, and I still don't look good, and then I try to take a picture of myself, so I go through the whole rigmarole of putting foundation on, and then I try to take a selfie, and my skin still looks fucking awful, and I still have to use like a filter, like a skin smoothing filter, so I don't need to wear foundation, like, because if I take a selfie, I'm just gonna use like a skin smoothing filter anyway. So like, it doesn't make a difference. And then in real life, it really doesn't matter. Like, I don't think anyone's like looking at me and being like, oh my god, you have pores, like everybody does. And I'm sure if I saw these Instagram models in real life, they would too have pores. And like, you know, when you can see girls, you can see they have makeup on, right? Because it kind of like dries up around like some of their bad spots or whatever, and so it just like doesn't even matter at the end of the day. So point being, I don't know why people like Instagram more than Twitter when Instagram is just a bunch of phonies. Okay, and you can't really talk on there, right? It's just pictures. And I feel like when it comes to discourse, that's what Twitter is for. And if you think Twitter is just people being angry, then you're kind of paying attention to maybe the wrong places. And maybe people have a reason to be angry, or, you know, like people are just kind of like having a discussion. And I guess like it's the idea too of like people are anonymous, and so they just like say bullshit, but like it's gonna be like that everywhere. I think the real downfall of the internet was normal people coming on the internet. You know, like I have always been an internet nerd. Is the way I used to describe myself. Like I was an internet nerd. That's how I describe myself. And now, like I do still sort of like see myself that way, because I'm definitely like different from everyday people who just like kind of use the internet, or you know, like they just have like Facebook and Instagram and that's about it. There's just like it used to be, it just used to be, the internet just used to be such a different place, okay? It was just such a different place with such a different population of people, and now it's everybody. So it's just gotten a lot stranger, and I think like a lot of these opinions that people are spouting and all of this, like you don't even know if they're real people sometimes, right? Like sometimes it's like bots, and so you don't even know. And or sometimes it's kids. And that's another thing that I think people forget, is that a lot of the time these are kids, like these are like teenagers, right? And or even if they're like 2021, like you're still like learning things, and these people who might be saying something really cringy or like uninformed right now, being a kid, I call it, even if you're like 20 to 22 or whatever, like you're still really young and learning. And when they're older, when they're like almost 30, they might be like, oh my god, like that was so dumb. Like I know that I had opinions when I was 20 that I'm like, that was so dumb that I thought that, and I just like wasn't informed, or I was just like thoroughly convinced of something and now I changed my mind. Like that happens all the time, and it's not like it's a drastic change. It's like, it's not like I used to be, just to make an easy example, I used to be left-wing and now I'm right-wing or something like that, which I'm not. But like, I'm just saying, like, it's not like a drastic change like that. It's just like little things. Like you just grow up and learn things and experience life and stuff, and you kind of change. Or like maybe you were convinced of something because you saw a video and you were like, it's definitely this. And then you kind of like grow up and you're like, oh, that, like, I don't really agree with that anymore, you know, just something like that. So like you kind of have to keep in mind that a lot of people on the internet are kids who might change their mind later. Even if they're older, they might change their mind later, you know? So like, I don't know, like people just get like so serious about this. Like I see people arguing online. I've had on YouTube comments, like I made a YouTube comment on someone's video and then people started getting in like some dumb argument underneath it, and I was just like, why? I ended up deleting my comment because I was so sick of getting notifications that these people were like arguing. I'm like, stop. Like life just isn't that serious, bro. Anyway, I'm really distracted by the fact that my record wall is missing a record because it fell, and I can't actually find the pin, so I have to do that and put it back up. But it was in 1975, but it fell. But that's real life, right? It fell, so I have like, it's missing. That's just the way it is when I decided to film this video, so that's my background, right? Like I have a bit of like a mess here, but you know, that's my background. The point is lava lamp. What else in this world is going on that I can talk about? I don't even know. Just pretend. Just pretend. That's there you go, perfect. I guess if I could say anything to the world, because that's what YouTube's about, right? It's supposed to be about. It would be to read history. I don't think enough people know history. It's actually very strange to read history, and any historian or anybody who's just interested in history will tell you just how weird it is. I'm sure they'll tell you. I'm sure it's not just me. I don't really talk to other history people, to be fair, but it's just really weird to read old literature or read, you know, even old nonfiction, but I read a lot of old fiction. Just like how little has changed. Like, a lot has changed, obviously, in technology and just like advancements and things, but like the human condition is the same. And even like a lot of like movements, social movements, racism movement, sexism movement, all these things, like so little has changed with that. Even like there's been some advancements, obviously, but it's just funny to kind of like even read about how the movements, like what I mean is that while the movements have made changes and good changes in the world, the way that these people, these activists kind of like go about their activist ways is so similar. If you go back and read about feminists in the 70s or anything like that, like it's just so funny to kind of like read the literature or read or watch oh, what's good? That fucking show on YouTube. Look up Dick Cavett, okay, look up the Dick Cavett show, because that's a fucking good show, man. Like, I wish there was a show like that now. I don't know, he had interesting guests. He's got a great personality with these guests. I'm sorry, I'm like hitting with a pen, but it's just, did you see that bloop? Lava lamp. Point being, he had some 70s feminists on there, okay, and it was just interesting to watch the debate. I think he had like some feminists sitting there with like Hugh Hefner, and then he also had Grace Slick, who was kind of like not really about the feminist movement, and like so she had her opinions on it and stuff like that. Anyway, and he's had like a lot of really great people on there, and so I recommend watching that channel because that's really cool, and that's history. So if you want to, that's not even that long ago. Like, that's only like 50 years ago, okay? And they're still like it's just interesting that people kind of are the same but different. A lot of the things that they argue is kind of like the same but different. Like, nowadays they're not really talking about like women aren't really like super expected to be housewives so much anymore. So like that's not really an argument in the feminist movement anymore. They've kind of like moved on to like other things, but a lot of the things that they still talk about, or a lot of the language they use, are just like the way that they talk. It's like the same. So I find that really interesting. And I mean, I guess because like it all just kind of came from the same place, and I'm sure like the movement today like reads all this stuff, so like of course they would kind of like talk the same way or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. So, and then same with like racism movement. In my book video, I talk about that really great Portable 60s reader, which I still recommend, and there's a section in there about racism and a lot of like stuff that was written in that day. And I remember reading that book and being like, this is like now, like it's the same stuff that people are kind of arguing about now, which I don't know, I just find it very interesting how the same it is. But even further back than that, obviously in that book video, I talk about how my favorite era is like the early 20th century. So like basically like 1900, like turn of the century until like World War II. World War II fucked everything up, let me tell you, okay? We were kind of like on an okay path. It was like okay, but World War II really fucked shit up. Like, but reading novels from that time, it is very interesting to see that just how like even like just like feelings, like the way people kind of like feel about life and living and just emotions that people have, and I don't know, it's just like it's the same as how people now, it's the same as how people feel now. And I think it's very important to keep that in mind, because we can kind of get caught up in how we live in the future, because we fucking do. Okay, this is like this tiny rectangular goddamn device that I can like do anything on, essentially, and I can use it to record myself in fucking HD video and put it out for random people to see me rant. It's not really a rant, but you know, just to like see me go on about like whatever. But that's fucking weird. That is like, I mean, back in the day, you know, maybe I would write more, you know, like I write a lot now, but I mean, I tend to be more like poetic, and I kind of like write more about feelings and stuff. But maybe I would have written about like all this kind of stuff, and maybe I still can. It's not like I can't, but you know, like this is the thing. It's like people don't really read anymore, right? So they're watching videos. So if I'm trying to get my ideas out there, this is the way to do it, right? But I mean, how many people are going to watch this video? I don't know. It's probably going to be long because this is already half an hour, but that's what I mean. It's just like, people got to read history, because a lot of the time, and like you know, the old cliche of like history repeats itself is fucking true, because it is repeating itself, and it's even repeating itself in the pandemic, because the anti-maskers during the pandemic in like at the end of World War I or whatever, like during that pandemic, it was the anti-maskers weren't as prevalent, and obviously like it was exacerbated by the internet, and I'm sure if they had the internet back then, the anti-mask movement probably would have been just as bad. But there was an anti-mask movement back then, so like it's just repeated itself again in so many ways. And you know, like people not wearing their mask properly and all these things like that, a lot of the same fucking shit happened back then. It's just odd to think that it would just repeat itself, and it does. I guess I find it very unfortunate. There's been a lot of like great ideas. I think there were a lot of great ideas in the 20th century that were kind of lost, or maybe, you know, like not implemented properly, which caused things to just kind of like repeat itself. I don't know how to get out of this repetition. And maybe it's just meant to be this way, and maybe there isn't a way to get out of this repetition, you know? Maybe this is just the way life is supposed to be. This is the way that the human age, essentially, because like Earth has been around for so long, and humans have only been around for whatever amount of time, but this is like the human age where humans kind of run the Earth, right? So like, but maybe this is just the way it's supposed to go, and there isn't really anything that we can do about it to stop this repetition. I think that the collective conscious, you know, like our vision of history really only goes back to World War II. Like, seriously, that's why I'm like, World War II fucked everything up. Like, not only did it just like mess up like a lot of like movements that were gaining traction at the time, like some like feminist movements and stuff like that were like kind of going somewhere, and then like after the end of World War II, just kind of like fucking back to square one in a lot of ways. But not just that, but like other things. But if you talk to the average person, like their idea of, oh, it's always been this way, like really only goes back to World War II, because it's like there are some traditions or like the way we do things or whatever that really aren't that old. For instance, wearing a t-shirt seems pretty fucking normal, right? Wearing a t-shirt has only been normal since the 70s, okay? Before the 70s, if you went out in a t-shirt, people would be like, why are you in your underwear? Like, it wasn't very common. Like, yeah, once in a while, like, a dude would go out in a t-shirt. Like, a woman would never go out in a t-shirt, first of all. But a dude would go out in a t-shirt maybe sometimes, but it was kind of like underwear in a way. Like, it wasn't, like, underwear, but, you know, like, it wasn't... Usually you wore, like, a shirt, like a proper shirt or whatever. And then hats, you know, like hats only died out around that same fucking time, like really the 70s. Like the way that we dress now, it has its origins in the 70s. Before that, clothes were, you often made your own clothes, or you had to like get them tailored. Like you bought them out of a catalog. Like ready-made clothes are not that old. Like maybe like, I'm not that good of a historian, so don't super quote me on this. Like, of course I encourage you to find out the truth, but I mean, it was basically like the 50s, maybe the 40s, but like before that, like you basically went like to a shop and you had like 3 outfits, you know, and when they started ripping, you had to fix them yourself. You couldn't just like, oh, I'm gonna go buy like new shoes or whatever. Like you had to fix your shoes, or you had to take them to someone to fix them. Because yeah, like that's just the way clothes were back then. But now, you know, it's just so easy to buy like a million clothes. I have way too many clothes, and I wear like the same 5 outfits, to be honest. So right, like I don't need all these clothes. I'm working on trying to get rid of them and stuff. But that's like a very new development, and we're so used to it now that we forget how new it is. I'm trying to figure out what exactly my reason for thinking history is so important is. Like, do I think it would help if people read more history? Like, I think so, but at the same time, like, would it? But like, I think so, because I think it would really put into perspective a lot of things for people. And it's like a good reminder of how finite your life really is. And some things that seem like so important, like social media stuff, right? Like, I don't know, if you're the kind of person that gets caught up in social media stuff, I know a lot of people are, and you think that that's like the most important thing ever. Like, it's not, because when you really start thinking about human history, fucking all the social media stuff started goddamn like 15 years ago, right? Like with MySpace or whatever, like that was kind of like the start of it. But even with MySpace, like I said, that was a certain kind of people. That was still internet people, or like whatever, you know, like it wasn't everybody. And then Facebook, that's when it started to be everybody. And that's when it started to be like, you use your own name and stuff like that. That too is like an internet 2.0 thing. It's like using your real name, using your real identity. I don't know, right? But before that, it was like usernames and anonymous. And I know like Reddit is still like that, obviously. And like Twitter is still like that, and you can just have a username, but like a lot of people will still put, you know, their real name in it or whatever, and their like location and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure they did that on MySpace. I don't know what I'm talking about. I didn't even use MySpace, to be honest, because it wasn't popular here. Like I had a MySpace, but it just wasn't popular here. Like people really didn't use it. We didn't really start doing stuff like that till Facebook, and even then I was like, I don't want to put my like real name on the internet. Like I was always taught like you have to be careful on the internet and like don't put your information. And now like everybody puts like information, which is interesting. And TikTok now, I don't even know. I don't have that. I don't have TikTok. When it came out in like 2019, I downloaded it for like 2 minutes. I downloaded it because I had heard that there was like TikTok and it had like videos on it or something. I was like, oh, and I looked at it, and as people know, when you first get it, it kind of just shows you like normie stuff, right? Like, because it doesn't know your interests yet. So I was getting like a lot of local stuff and just stuff that I did not care about, and I was like, oh, is this all this is? Well, I don't care, and I deleted it. But because I didn't know at the time that you had to like keep looking at it or whatever in order for it to like actually show you stuff that you would be interested in, because it has to learn about you, because you don't like enter it in. You know how like maybe on I think like Pinterest or something, like when you make an account, it's like, what are you interested in, and then it like curates it from the beginning. But on TikTok, you kind of have to like go through it, and it just eats up so much time. Like people spend hours on TikTok. And they spend entire days on TikTok. And I just don't understand that, because it's just, it seems like such a pointless website to spend that much time on. Like, yeah, I don't care if you're spending maybe like 15 minutes on it because you're like on the bus and whatever, you know, like fine. But like, people are like, oh, that devil app, I get sucked into it. Like, delete it, bro. Delete it if this is a problem. Like, I really don't understand how people get so, I mean, I understand it to a degree, but like, fucking delete it, man. Like, everything that I've heard about that app, it just creeps me the hell out, and it's full of kids who essentially feel like they're just posting for other kids because their friends use it. And they're like, oh, I'm posting this, and it's just like for my friends, and like other teenagers are gonna see it, you know, like teenagers, they think they're like just in this little teenager group posting, but like everyone can see this, and anyone can see this. Creeps can see it. I don't even know, like old people, young people, anyone can see this video of you. And kids are doing inappropriate things on there that if they were just doing it in private with their friends, fine, doesn't matter. But this is like on the internet in public. And that's what is funny, is that I grew up being taught like, don't fucking do that. And now it's like normal, and kids do this. And if you don't do it, then like, you know, you're not cool. So, you know, and kid, you know, you want to be cool when you're a kid. I'm sure if I was a teenager right now, I'd be fucking doing it, because I'd probably think it's fun in the same way that I think YouTube is fun or whatever. And maybe I also wouldn't really be thinking too much about like, oh, the creepy old man's gonna like see me being sexy even though I'm like 14 or whatever, which I was not sexy at 14. But nowadays, there's just so much content kind of like teaching you how to dress and how to pose and how to do your makeup and like all this kind of stuff. And I just like wasn't exposed as much to that kind of stuff until the last decade, like the 2010s, just like really, because now there's just like that kind of content everywhere. And now I'm like, oh, like I'm better at makeup, or I'm better at like fashion or whatever, because I just get inspired at, like I started with like Tumblr and kind of just moved on from there, I guess. Like RIP Tumblr, for real. Like I miss that fucking website. Like it still exists, but it's just like so dead now. It's such a shame. But yeah, I don't know, kids on the internet nowadays, it's just like I sound like so old discussing this, but it's just so interesting. Like, I should not use that word, because it's like so overused. Like, what does interesting even mean, right? It's just fascinating to me, just like the way that the world is now with the internet and everything. But yeah, so like, I don't know, if you feel like you have like a phone addiction, please deal with that. Please deal with it, because there is just so much more in the world than the fucking apps. And I've not struggled with that. I do spend a lot of time on the internet via my computer, mostly watching YouTube, and I'll like look at Twitter for maybe like 10 to 20 minutes in a day, because like I'll just check it a little bit here and there or whatever. But just the idea of like, and I always see it, you know, like in public, people are just always like kind of looking down their phone. And when I'm in public and I look down at my phone, I feel really self-conscious, because I'm so conscious of like seeing everybody else doing this and thinking like it's kind of bizarre, but kind of like cool in like a sci-fi way, like feeling like I live in the future. And then when I'm looking at it, I'm just like, oh, I'm doing it too, like, or whatever. But so I don't know, I don't usually, but so I don't know, if you think you have a phone addiction, if you're like really concerned about that or something, like please deal with it, because it's just kind of frustrating to me to kind of watch human beings kind of get sucked into the hole of a handheld device. As someone who's an avid reader, I wish people read more, and I think that phones have really killed reading. It's just dying. It's like a dying hobby, I guess. Of course, there's plenty of people who still really love reading and everything like that, but it really is a dying hobby, and like a lot of people don't read. ADHD is essentially an epidemic. I'm pretty sure everyone who's been born since fucking 1990 has ADHD, at least a little bit, just in the way that we consume information, how fast everything is, and the way that we grew up. It's really changed our brains, and now people can't read a lot of the time. That's what people tell me, like, oh, I can't read, I can't focus, I can't do that, you know. But it's a skill you have to learn. It's like playing an instrument. Because if I don't read for several months for whatever reason, and I try to read again, then yeah, sometimes it's hard. Or sometimes I just have a day where I try to read and it's just not happening. And I'm like, I cannot fucking focus on this right now. Like, it's just not happening. Like, it happens to me too. But reading is so important because, I mean, like, you could sit there and watch YouTube videos that teach you stuff, which is like perfectly fine. And I have no problem with that. But reading is also just like, there's just information that is in books that is very important that more people need to know about. And people are just so caught up now in image and money and sort of like petty issues, in my opinion, like things that really are inconsequential at the end of the day. Not that maybe reading won't fix this, but I don't know. This is why I don't say opinions online, because I know I'm not making any fucking sense, and it's just stupid. My fucking opinion it's not helpful at all. I just want more people to read. I don't even have a real good reason. I might think like, oh, but there's also YouTube. Like I said, if you use YouTube properly and you find these YouTube channels that talk about history, that talk about philosophy, these things are very, very important. Social commentary channels, good. Like Tiffany Ferg, great. Jordan Teresa, great. Like, they talk about sort of frivolous things, but it is important to really kind of look at these social phenomena with a critical eye and really think about it, or you just kind of get lost in the chaos. And it could be fun to get lost in the chaos, but keep a critical eye. I think that's important. I don't know how this turned into a lecture of what's important, but I guess that's what I decided to talk about. I don't even know. This is almost a goddamn hour long, and no one is going to watch this, especially because I never post. So I guess I'll just wrap it up by saying, not everything has to be a lucrative venture, okay? Not all of your hobbies have to make you money, okay? You don't have to turn your life into work. You don't have to turn your life into, like, your job isn't your life. If you're the kind of person that your job is your life and, like, that makes you happy, that's fine, obviously. But just from what I see, like, you know, people are just selling themselves nowadays, and everyone has to be their own brand, you know, everyone's branding themselves, and that's a little strange in my opinion. And like I said, like, when it comes to filming yourself, taking photos of yourself, thinking about yourself all the time, watching yourself all the time, kind of like really thinking about your persona and how you act and how you talk and how people online or people in the world, how their opinions of you, all these things, like, that is just a whole psychological fucking mess. And we will see the consequences of this in the future. I think the pandemic kind of made a lot of people turn to this because they felt that they couldn't survive without doing that. Hence the boom in OnlyFans. But I don't think that that's always a good route. I think psychologically thinking about yourself that much can really fuck someone up. I'm sure there's examples of this, but I'm sure it really does, you know, and it can be very enticing because a lot of these big creators make a lot of money, and I mean, hell, I would love to have all that money, but I don't think I can sell myself for it. Because that, yeah, psychologically, like, even with the amount that I used to do just with streaming and when I did have an Instagram and stuff, like, it really fucking started getting to me. So I don't know, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just, like, not cut out for it, and that's that. But I do think that people really need to consider the psychological consequences of turning yourself into a brand, and obsessing over yourself, and that everybody is a narcissist now. And it's just like kind of accepted as like a good thing, but I don't think it's a good thing. So see, I do have opinions, and I'm not always on the fence about everything. I do really have opinions, but that being said, somebody could argue me that being a narcissist creator, because we're not artists anymore, okay? We're creators. The artist is dead. Death of the author, death of the artist. Every single kind of artist. We're creators now. It's not really art anymore, because you know what? People are apprehensive about calling it art. Oh, it's not art. What is art? Why isn't it art? Why can't we be artists, huh? I just think people need to consider that. Oh yeah, well, somebody could argue to me like why it's good, or why, you know, like it might be good for the world or something like that, and like by all means, and I'll probably totally understand your side. I definitely don't judge anyone who wants to do that with their life or anything, but I do think, especially when people are very young, they're really not considering the consequences of the internet and turning yourself into a product. So that is my talking video.